Sarah and Blake, and you are watching From the Cape with Bass, hosted by Daniel Peterson.
Good day, everybody. Today we're here with great bass player Sarah and Blake. Sarah, can you tell us what your first musical experience was?
I was 3,
Okay.
and I come from a family of musicians. My mom plays violin, and my dad played trumpet.
Okay.
And I was 3 years old, and my mom said, "Sarah, if you want to live in this house, you're going to have to play an instrument."
Wow, that's really tough for a
No.
3-year-old.
Yeah. So after that, I picked up a violin, and I did the Suzuki method for a couple of years, and then from there I just chopped and changed instruments until I found the bass. But yeah, I've been playing music my whole life, but that was the first experience that I had, having an instrument in my hands.
Okay.
So it was good.
Cool. So Sarah, can you tell us why you chose the bass guitar? What stood out for you from the low notes?
So I started playing electric bass just to get into UCT, into the South African College of Music. And then after 6 months of studying electric, I went to the Grahamstown Jazz Festival, and I saw Hein van der Geijn perform on the double bass.
Okay.
And I was just completely blown away and just mesmerized by this instrument and this man, and how he could portray so much soul and so much beauty and so much emotion through this vessel.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I was just spellbound. I was like, this is it. I'm going to play this thing, and that is what's going to happen. And the next day, I went up to him. I was all shy, like 19 years old, like, "Hi, Mr. van der Geijn. My name is Sarah, and it's so nice to meet you. Do you want to, maybe, I hear that you're teaching at UCT, and funny, I go there, So can I come for a couple of lessons?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll see you when we get back to Cape Town." And then we had one lesson, and then we just kept playing, and I changed my major to upright bass.
Wow.
And we're still friends and colleagues today.
Wow.
I mean, that was
amazing.
That was a long time ago.
Amazing. Okay, you were telling me about Hein van Geijn?
Van der Geijn.
Van der Geijn, okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the musical education at UCT and before that as well, please?
My musical education.
Yeah.
So I mean, as I said, I've played a whole bunch of instruments throughout my life. I studied guitar in high school.
Okay.
And then in order to get into UCT, my dad used to work at the South African College of Music, and his friend, who was one of the guitar teachers, said, "We need bassists in Cape Town, so she should apply on bass rather than on guitar." So I was like, "Okay, cool, less strings, yay!"
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I studied bass. I have a degree in jazz composition, and I also studied in New York for a couple of months. But that was just at a school called the Collective, and it wasn't necessarily just jazz related. It was a whole bunch of different avenues and different genres, and a bit of music business. You kind of got to tailor make your course that you did. And it was just, that experience was also more about being in New York and experiencing the city, being opened up to a completely different world of music and relationships and networking and the hustle and bustle. I mean, I learned so much in the year that I was there.
Wow.
That it's just changed my view on the music industry quite considerably.
Wow. Amazing. Sarah, can you tell us about the albums and the artists that you worked on and worked with?
So during my time at UCT, I joined a band called Manouche.
Manouche.
Yes, we played gypsy jazz,
Okay.
or like a kind of mixed up kind of milkshake version of gypsy jazz, and some funk and some like Afrikaans rap in there as well.
Okay.
And I was in that band for about 8 years. So I recorded on 2 EPs that we have, of which the latest one I wrote most of the music for.
Wow.
And then we broke up just before I went to New York. We had like a whole farewell thing, and it was fantastic and really nice. And since then, I have been on a guy named JP Sun. He's South African, but he lives in Germany. I've been on 2 of his EPs as well, singing and playing bass. And then I've also worked with Zolani Mahola. And I've recorded some backing vocals and bass for her as well, for a couple of her singles. I don't think they're out yet, but yeah.
So there's some music coming out from her.
There's some music coming out from her. I hope so. Yeah, her music is beautiful. It's just storytelling and so from the soul, and it's amazing. I've
Tell me, were you playing upright or electric on albums?
both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So, yeah, it's very cool.
Interesting. Sarah, can you tell us about your gear? I see you have this beautiful bass here. Is it 100 years old?
No, I don't know actually. So that bass is a bit of a Frankenstein.
Okay.
There's a guy named Daniel Franks who just loves instruments in general and stringed instruments. So it's kind of like the body of one bass and the neck of another, and he's kind of like put a couple of things together. But
so he's like a mechanic.
yeah,
Okay.
musical mechanic, yeah.
Okay,
so
okay.
he's put a couple of things together, but I've never had an extremely expensive bass before. The bass that I had before this was just a Chinese flame lily, I think it was called. And it's amazing what kind of sound you can get out of like a cheap body with good strings or a good bridge. And you have to have a good luthier, the mechanic.
Yeah, mechanic, yeah.
Yeah.
Mechanic.
So, yeah, you just make sure that you have people who know what they're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, make sure that you take it to someone who can give you good advice and who can teach you more about your instrument, because you can learn about that stuff on YouTube and trial and error, but that's not really something that you want to trial and error on.
I get it.
Especially in the beginning. Asking questions is very good. And then that Mark bass amp has been in my
care,
in my gearbox.
Okay, are we talking about cars here?
For the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
And before that, I had a Hartka 100 watt, which is still alive, but not in my current possession anymore. But yeah, it's great. It's light. It's easy. It's foolproof. It does what you want it to do, and it's not too complicated. I'm not really one to.
So you're not a
gear junkie, man.
Okay. So you don't use any pedals as well?
Not at the moment. I have a couple.
Okay.
I have a multi-effects bass pedal that I'm actually trying to sell right now, just because the sound that I go for is, I don't want to say pure, but all organic, but like, I love the sound of the bass, and it's beautiful, and it's rich and it's full. And with electric bass, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my sound is. And as a solo artist, like, you can mess around and you can do different things, but in a band, you would have to have the band to figure out where you want to go with that kind of stuff as well, so input of what kind of sound they want or what you're doing all together. So I guess I'm just waiting to see where I can use these things, but I play around, so that's cool.
As long as you play.
Yeah.
Sarah, do you have any advice for young up-and-coming bass players and musicians out there, please?
Out there. Advice for young up-and-coming bass players.
And musicians.
And musicians.
You've been around for a while now, so.
So, one thing that I've learned is that it's not always about your chops. There are a lot of musicians out there who can play the crap out of their instrument, but you want to be someone that people want to spend time with.
Yeah.
Because if you go on tour, you play for 2 hours, and then the rest of the time you are going to be with people.
Yeah.
So the playing part is not always about, it's not the main thing. Like that needs to be in your pocket already. My advice is, something that I was guilty of as well is a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying things out, and you're learning about the instrument, and you know who you are as an artist, or how you can put your person through this instrument. And I would say just go and play as much as you can. And the years that you start are the years that you can make mistakes and figure out who you are or what you want to do. You know, that's the time where you can fumble and fall and not pay any consequences. But later on, all of that time that you spend, you know, like making mistakes or figuring out all this stuff, it's all going to come back, and it's going to make you into the musician that you are. Wow. And the other thing is confidence. It's all about, I mean, in jazz especially, there's no such thing as a wrong note, you know. It's just, it's the note that follows that kind of, you know, you can kind of wobble your way through a couple of things, and then some people are like, oh, you played such great things there, you know, I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, if you make it look like a mistake, then it's a mistake. And if you make it look like it was done on purpose, then people are going to be like, that was hip, man.
I understand.
Yeah, so
okay,
that's it.
Okay, cool. Sarah, thank you so much for making time for From the Cape with Bass. Thank you so much for answering the call.
Yeah.
Godspeed on your journey.
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay.
Dan. Cheers,
Let's
man.
do this.
you so much for liking and sharing this video with your fellow bass community. Please follow From the Cape of Bass on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much.